Ilene had always thought that her marriage was built on a solid foundation. Sure, there had been tough moments over the years, but 15 years was no small feat. She had weathered the storms of life with Richard by her side, and despite the ups and downs, she believed they had something strong. That belief began to shatter the night Richard came to her with an unexpected request. They were sitting in the living room after dinner, the soft hum of the television playing in the background. Richard seemed tense, his fingers drumming on the armrest of the couch. Ilene had sensed something was off, but nothing could have prepared her for what came next. "I need to talk to you about something," he said, his voice heavy with an odd mixture of guilt and resolve. Ilene turned off the TV, giving him her full attention. "What's going on?" Richard took a deep breath, avoiding eye contact for a moment before looking directly into her eyes. "I've met someone." Her heart stopped for a second, the blood draining from her face. She felt the walls closing in, her breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice a whisper, as if afraid of the answer. "It's not what you think," he hurriedly said. "I haven't cheated, Ilene. I would never cheat on you." Relief barely registered before he continued. "But there's someone at work, Vivian. I'm attracted to her physically, that's all. There's no emotional connection. I don't want to be with her in any way other than sexually." Ilene's world began to spin. She stared at him, trying to process his words. "I don't want to go behind your back," he went on, his tone almost rehearsed. "I'm telling you because I respect you. I want us to open up the marriage." It felt like a punch to the gut. "What?" Her voice cracked, her hands trembling as she tried to keep herself together. "I want to sleep with her," Richard said, his words sounding hollow to Ilene. "But I don't want to lose you. This is just, it's physical. It doesn't mean I don't love you." Her mind raced. She could barely hear his justifications. How he wasn't interested in Vivian's mind. How it was purely a physical attraction. Maybe something to explore once, maybe more than once. It didn't matter. All she could focus on was the crack in their marriage that had suddenly become a gaping chasm. Richard kept talking as if offering her a lifeline, though to her it felt like a death sentence. "You can have the same freedom. I don't want to hold you back either. It'll be equal. But I need this." She didn't want freedom. She wanted her husband, the life they'd built together, the home they shared. She wanted her marriage. "I don't know what to say," she finally whispered, feeling tears prick at the corners of her eyes. How could you even ask me that?" "I didn't want to cheat, Ilene," he said again, his tone pleading now, like he was the one in need of forgiveness. I thought being honest would help." The rest of the conversation blurred. She didn't remember agreeing, didn't remember saying yes, but somehow she had let him go that night. She spent the entire evening on the couch, staring at the clock, her mind blank and full at the same time. When the door finally creaked open hours later, her heart raced, hoping he'd come back with regret in his eyes. But when Richard stepped inside, there was no apology in his expression. He simply walked to the bathroom, showered, and climbed into bed beside her. He didn't reach for her. He didn't say a word. For the first time in their 15 years together, Richard didn't hold her when he came to bed. Instead, he rolled over, his back facing her, and fell asleep. Ilene stared at the ceiling, tears streaming silently down her face. Something inside her broke that night, a fracture so deep she couldn't imagine it ever healing. The next morning, Richard acted as though nothing had changed. He greeted her with a soft good morning, but Ilene could barely look at him. He kissed her on the cheek before heading to work, and as soon as the door clicked shut behind him, Ilene made a decision. She wasn't going to fight for someone who didn't want to fight for her.